The threat environment is also more complex than ever before.
Election officials say their guard is up, protecting your vote. But what about lies circulating online?
Where we're all subjected to a fire hose of disinformation.
We're asking how artificial intelligence is distorting the message.
If there's enough noise, you can cause people to potentially give up and say, I don't know what to believe.
Who's behind the disinformation and what's their motive?
So you have very real threats from our foreign adversaries.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Elizabeth Cook.
I'm Ann Makovec in for Liz, and U.S. officials say there are real threats to our election, and they're ready to take them on. But what they can't control is what we see in our news feeds. Today, we are asking how AI is being used to create and spread disinformation. Ready or not, we are just 12 days out from the election. 23 million people have already voted, breaking early voting records in at least 3 states. Natalie Brand has a look at the presidential candidate strategies to get voters to the polls.
Vice President Kamala Harris departed one battleground for another, heading to Georgia for a star-studded rally tonight with former President Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen.
The turnout is massive. We know what we're fighting for.
On the campaign trail for Harris this month, Obama has focused on black men, with some party leaders concerned about turnout.
It's not what I see in terms of my rallies, in terms of the interactions I'm having with people in communities and on the ground. What I'm seeing is in equal measure, men and women talking about their concerns about the future of our democracy.
Some voters waiting in line to see the vice president say she still has work to do.
It's real because so many younger people are misinformed.
With just 12 days left in the race for the White House, former President Donald Trump headed west for rallies in Arizona and Nevada, spotlighting his signature issue, immigration.
Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history.
In Georgia Wednesday night, Trump stepped up his attacks on the vice president and the Biden administration's border policies.
They walk through that open border and probably say, man, are these people stupid? And then they start to kill. They kill.
The Trump campaign is hoping to flip Arizona back to their column after the former president lost the state by fewer than 11,000 votes in 2020. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, in Phoenix, police arrested a suspect they believe set fire to a post box, and that damaged a handful of ballots. Arizona's Secretary of State said vandalism undermines the democratic process, and they sent fire suppression equipment to counties across the state. Tensions are very high, you can tell from that little quip, and some elections workers are being threatened across the country. Coming up, what federal officials are doing to secure the vote and what they have to say about the safety of our voting machines. And the threats seem to be coming from all sides. We're going to be asking an expert about some of the dangers online leading up to the election and how you can spot the real thing versus AI. With so much at stake in our upcoming election, each vote is all the more valuable. There are obviously bad actors ready to take advantage and threaten our voting process. But today, the director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security, it's an agency, outlined some of the measures to ensure resilience.
As soon as an election machine is taken out of the custody of an election officials, it has to be replaced. And we've seen that before when election equipment has been given to those outside of the chain of custody, they become completely unusable. The voting machines themselves, as you mentioned, not connected to the internet. There is over 97% paper records that can be used to verify. And if an election is very close, those paper records, which by the way exist in all of the swing states, can be used to audit, to ensure accuracy, just as they were in 2020.
Other potential threats to our election process might not be as easily secured. We're talking about disinformation from foreign adversaries that want to weaken our democracy. CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell talked about this threat with the Assistant Attorney General at the Justice Department.
So we're seeing Russia, Iran, and China targeting our elections. They see this as a period of vulnerability for us.
Iran, Russia, and China are trying to strike at the heart of democracy.
I think that's a very fair statement. This is a clear and present danger.
How would I know that's happening?
Right, you may not see it. We're seeing sophisticated efforts by our adversaries to hide their steps. They, for example, used fake websites of real news outlets like the Washington Post and Fox News.
Disinformation to make it look like there's more disunity out there than there really is.
Absolutely, to make it look like these issues that are important issues in our society, but that there's less common ground than there actually is.
They're bringing up Russia, Russia, Russia again.
Donald Trump has long claimed that Russian interference is a hoax, in his word. Has that had an impact on the Department of Justice's public perception?
First, 2016, Russian interference in the election was not a hoax. It was actually happening then. It is actually happening now. There is no question about it. It is more aggressive than ever this election cycle.
Who does Russia want to win?
Russia has been seeking to boost the candidacy of the former president and to denigrate the candidacy of the vice president.
So Russia's trying to boost Donald Trump and denigrate Kamala Harris.
We've seen that very clearly.
What about Iran?
The intelligence community with respect to Iran has also identified efforts that Iran has made to compromise the former president's campaign.
Former President Donald Trump was briefed on real and specific threats from Iran to kill him. What can you tell us about that?
We have been intensely tracking Iranian efforts, Iranian lethal plotting efforts targeting former and current U.S. government officials, and that includes the former president.
But has it gotten more worrisome or more dangerous in the last several months?
I would say that we are very concerned, gravely concerned about Iranian plotting.
Are you worried about violence in America after the election, regardless of who wins?
In the Justice Department, we are involved in prosecuting the cases that arose after January 6th, 2021. I would say to anyone who is considering violence, they should look at the hundreds of prosecutions that have been brought here in Washington, D.C., and the long prison sentences in some of those cases. So I think that we have taken that lesson to heart.
So that's about some of the consequences. How do things get out of control? Well, technology is certainly playing a role. Joining me now to talk about it is Dr. Olaf Brodt. He is a professor of business and public policy at UC Berkeley, specializing in artificial intelligence. Thanks for being with us today, Professor. We know technology is changing all the time. So each time we have a presidential election, we're seeing new challenges that could interfere. So now 2024, how are bad actors able to leverage how we're seeing this election and the outcome?
Yeah, unfortunately, they're able to do that in one too many ways, right? And Americans are worried, and they're rightly worried. We're in this very tenuous period right now where we're trying to figure out what all these new technologies can accomplish, whether they can scale to have a massive impact on the elections, or whether this is really more of a sustained attack on trust and on civil discourse in our society, right? So there's about 7 or 8 different ways in which artificial intelligence, for instance, can be used, starting with misinformation and hallucinations in some of these transformer models. Some are only about 70% accurate, some are 97% accurate, so there's great variance. And there's deep fakes. Sometimes they're intended and they're declared, but they're hardly detectable. And sometimes they're maliciously, intentionally misleading people, such as what we've seen with some of Trump's ads featuring Taylor Swift. Then there's the liar's dividend, right? That politicians can actually claim that because there is so much AI interference out there that any piece of legitimate news can actually could actually have been manufactured by an AI, even when it's not true. And then there is
that's true, because there's so many like jaw-dropping moments that we've already seen during the campaign. So I mean, you can't even trust your inner woe meter. Oh, this is AI. No, this could very well be true, because unbelievable things are transpiring.
That's absolutely right. And, it doesn't stop with the election. It goes beyond the election, right? Distraction campaigns, foreign psychological warfare in order to destabilize a new administration, incitement of resistance amongst the populace based on an election result. So this is a permanent problem that will be with us for the near to medium term future.
So how can we, as just normal people looking at our news feed, tell the difference between something that's AI or real?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things, right? Now, number one, when something is very much sort of hiking up your own emotions, right? Then you got to ask yourself, what's behind this? Is this a politician? Is this an AI? Is this some third party that is trying to incite your emotions? See your own emotions as a warning signal to probe a bit more. The next thing you can do is visual cues, right? So a lot of the deep fakes out there are getting a lot better and they'll be near perfect pretty soon, but at the moment they're not. So when you see things like skin that is too perfect, or eyebrows moving different ways, or the head moving this way but the hair moving that way, in very subtle ways you can detect that a deep fake is at work here. So be discerning, ask yourself those questions, and be vigilant.
Okay, is there anything good to be said about artificial intelligence and its maybe how it could be used to help in an election, get more information out there?
Oh, there definitely is. Look, I mean, the idea that you can at scale get critical and time-sensitive information out there in a more personalized way, in theory, is a good thing. We just have to make sure that it's not just a few people around the economy controlling that, right? The recent examples of Mr. Musk going out and appropriating or misappropriating information is a key element in this. But there's also other good things happening that we need to take account of. So, for instance, in the UK, they've developed a machine called the Habermas machine, which can actually mediate political discourse more effectively and more logically than human moderators could. There are experiments right here in the Bay Area and elsewhere on using AI to detoxify social media discourse between different factions that are at each other's throats and trying to instill more trust. So as many people as there are trying to instill negative disruptions, there are people who are trying to use AI for good. The question is this going to be an arms race that the latter side can win?
And we are glad that you have that we have you here to answer some of those questions for us. Thanks for that perspective, Dr. Olaf Grote with UC Berkeley. We appreciate it.
Experience, Wednesday nights at 7:30.
Thanks for watching. You can always get all the latest headlines and weather over on Pix Plus. And remember to like and click the button on the bottom left of your screen to subscribe for the biggest Bay Area news.